Sports replays, where we don't replay anything, we just talk about it. No, that's not true. Played some games yesterday. Just been having a good time, but Mama decided to make noise right now. That's all right. I was like, I'm gonna stream. She's like, hold on, I'm gonna do chores. This is actually why we don't stream very often, folks. It's really hard to find a quiet time and place, but that's okay. Life is good. Got the blue clothes hat on, Lakewood blue clothes. I don't care what they call them. They're the Jersey Shore blue clothes now, but I still think of them as the Lakewood blue clothes because they're in Lakewood. But they represent the shore, bro. Anyway, I need to shave too. It's getting kind of crazy. So listen, the purpose of this video this morning is first of all to drink coffee and to wake up because I don't really have time to play a game before work. I mean, I could squeeze in a strat game, but I feel like I'd be rushing, and I don't even have one set up because I didn't finish by setting up a game yesterday, which is the number one no-no in any replay project, by the way. Always leave your next game set up. So when you finish your previous game, always set the next one up. Be ready to go, so that when you can sit down to play, you can, she's not being beaten in the background, she's just not feeling great. Her stomach's bothering her. So anyway, let's see it. Rule number one, whenever you finish a game in your replay or project, no matter what you're playing, always have the next one set up on the table for the next time you sit down, if at all possible. So, because if you don't do that, you find yourself with limited time in the morning, and you end up doing what I'm doing now, which is just talking about what my decision-making process is when thinking about what I want to replay. So I recently unboxed and showed you guys the 2025 Strat-O-Matic Baseball exclusive from Barnes&Noble, which is pretty cool. I had fun separating the cards. For those of you who watched the previous video, you'll note that instead of the big sheet of 9 cards, Strat actually broke them up into the rows of 3. So it's just 3 cards across in bricks. And I found it a lot faster to separate, so that was kind of cool. I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. There's 2 less lengthy tears to make, depending on how you like to separate them, but it was super simple and easy to separate them. What's up, Loke Gooner? How you doing? So that was nice that it was an easy separation process. So the other, but then the other thing I started doing, I'm doing good, man. Thank you. Enjoying my coffee and trying to wake up here. The other thing I found was, of course, I wanted to start playing with the set right away. I was like, all right, what am I going to do with this set? So my default was to just roll a few games from opening day to start the season. And so I started doing that. I think I've rolled 6 games so far using Strat Basic. But I'm thinking like longer term what I want to do with a project. Thank you very much. You too. Have a blessed day. And my default for a long time has been to do full season replays. And the first project I thought was... Actually, the first thing I thought before I bought the set was... no, not really more than enough. I used to. I don't really make time for it anymore. I do watch some highlights, though. I kind of keep up with what's going on a little bit, but I haven't watched it probably since the early 2000s. So... My first thought before I picked up the Barnes&Noble set was that I would do a 162-game Yankees replay. And I wanted to do a video around it that said, how long does it take to do a full season replay for one team, 162 games? And I thought that based on some math and knowing how long it takes me to play a Strat Basic game, that I could probably squeeze it in 2 weeks. And I thought I'd do a video or a video series around that. And I think it's a pretty good project. It's a pretty good idea. But as I started separating the cards and I saw that there are a bunch of good players on some of the teams, and I am in America, yes. I'm in the United States and New Jersey. Yeah. So I thought I wanted to play with some more of the teams. So then I started exploring the idea of doing. Um, you're in New York City, so you're not far. I grew up in the Bronx, so yeah, we're about 50 miles away from each other. But so then I thought, what if I just did a playoff team replay, um, short season? So 6 teams made the playoffs in each league. That's 12 teams. I could do like a 66 game replay, basically, where every team plays each other 6 times and get a pretty good replay out of it. And I thought that would be fun. Um, so that's one thought. Then another thought was doing full season replays of the Yankees and Dodgers because they're kind of head and shoulders above everybody else. Well, that's not really true. They didn't have better won-loss records in 2025 than, say, the Brewers. The Brewers actually had the best won-loss record, and nobody won 100 games last year. So there wasn't really a standout. So I thought another thought was that I would take the Yankees and Dodgers out, and I would use the other 10 teams to do a 54 game season. Um, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, because not everybody's into Strat. These are Strat-O-Matic cards. You could play a real life baseball game with pretty good statistical accuracy, and it's kind of like a baseball game on your tabletop, like a board game. There's a pretty big hobby around it, and a lot of YouTube creators who talk about these kind of games here on YouTube and Facebook. So most of whom my followers come from. So then I thought, yeah, that'd be a pretty good schedule. And I was thinking time wise. So one of the big factors that comes into, and one of the questions I see a lot is on Facebook, and when people are new to the hobby, and on the Delphi forums even, although less people are new, find their way to Delphi, they find out about that much later usually, um, is what kind of replay should I do? How long will it take? Of course, I've heard of Atlantic City. Yep, been there many times. How long will the replay take? And basically, how do you guys do your replays? Very common questions on Facebook from new people. So, and I probably should have organized my thoughts better before I did this, but the only one of those factors I want to talk about today, and maybe I'll do a longer video in general, about the whole replay planning process. But today, all I really want to talk about is thinking about the time it takes to do a replay. So, like I said, for a long time, my default has been to try being the operative word, although I have succeeded about 6 times, to try to do full season all team replays. So doing that for older seasons is a little more manageable. When you only have 16 teams, it's like 1,232 games if my brain is working correctly. They're having the air show this weekend. I've been there a couple times. That's a good time. Yeah, if the weather's supposed to be beautiful too, so it should be fun. So, 1,232 games with 16 teams. If I don't know if that's the exact number, but I think that's about right. Is a bit more manageable than 30 teams. And when you do a 30-team full season replay for a modern baseball season, that's 2,430 games. Right? So now, I know that when I play Strat Basic, for example, without keeping stats, just rolling the games, assuming that either I'm not keeping stats or maybe I'm using a helper, I can get a game in 15 to 20 minutes. So let's say best case scenario, 3 games an hour. That's best case scenario, right? I mean, if I'm really rushing, I can probably squeeze in 4, but that would mean all the score sheets are prepared ahead of time. Everything's ready to go. So 3 games an hour, more realistically 2, honestly. And so a half hour per game with stats is about right. And then you go over to my other main game right now is Payoff Pitch Baseball. And that holds pretty true, that accounting for setting up the cards, playing the game, wrapping things up, getting the next game out and getting that set up. But it's probably about 30 minutes a game. And of course, I usually try to get up between games, move around a little bit, maybe get refresh my water, maybe get a cup of tea. Maybe something in life needs to be addressed for a few minutes. Maybe I need to go to the bathroom. Um, right. So I think a pretty safe estimate for most baseball games is about a half hour per game. I've played APBA, Basic, and I find that to be about the same. Um, I can play APBA a little bit faster, but again, once you factor in stats and setup and just getting up to go to the bathroom, get a drink, and all that kind of thing, or people talking to you during the game, or whatever happens outside your game, unless you are locked in and in like focus work mode where you've got 20 score sheets set up and ready to go, and you're playing the same teams 20 times, and that is a efficiency hack um, that some people have done. I think Tebow's talked about that on his channel, and I think Keith Russell was the guy who sort of invented this extremely efficient way of playing APBA, where he could just bang out game after game after game, but then he would take 3 days to do stats. So again, even with his efficiency of playing multiple games in a row, sort of assembly line style, you still have that time afterwards, after every couple of weeks, where you're going to spend more time making up the stats, right? Um, so anyway, long story short, I think no matter what game we're talking about, a good estimate per game is about a half hour per game, right? So 2 games per hour. So now we're talking about 2,430 games. We just divide that by 2, and we come out with, if I can do brain math today, more coffee, please. If my math can brain, oh boy, I'm in trouble. If my brain can math this morning, 2,430 divided by 2 is 1,215. That is how many hours a full season replay would take. Okay. And that doesn't include if you want to play the All-Star game and the playoffs. So let's round it up a little bit and say another 10 hours for all that, right? Best case scenario, another 10 to 15. So we're at 1,230 hours. And I'm going to get a calculator out because my brain's not mathing. And I want to give you accurate information. So for those of you who think I'm going to do full season replays, that's great. That's fine. But for the vast majority of people who do these, it's a multi-year project. I've followed, there's one guy who's been playing 2019 as played pretty much. I think he's playing as played. His name is Averica on the Strat fan forum. And he started, I think in 2020, pretty much when the card set came out. And he pretty much plays a game a day, right? So he started in 2020, maybe 2021. But he's in I think he just got to August. It's been 6 years. He just got to August. I mean, that's a great way to play. If he's happy with that, and if you're happy with that, and you just want to get a game in a day, you have a half hour to 45 minutes where you can get an uninterrupted game in the morning over your coffee, or maybe at night before you go to bed, after the kids are in bed, or whatever your routine is, right? That is a great way to play, but this is a multi-year project. So let's start there. Let's start talking about that example as I get my calculator up, right? Because 365 is not an easy number to divide in my head. So 2,400 and let's say it's going to be more than that probably. 2,430 games divided by 2, like I said, is 1,215 hours at 2 games an hour. And then we add in, let's just say with everything going on, you've had some extra inning games, you want to relish the playoffs, you're going to play the playoff games and the All-Star game maybe a little bit slower. It probably takes you an hour just, or more to get the All-Star teams together. So we're going to use a round figure for a modern season of 1,250 hours, right? And you want to divide that by 365 days. That's 2 games a day, by the way. It's 2 games a day. So we're doubling Averica's pace. It's going to take you 3.5 years, 3.42 years. So if you start today, on Memorial Day, or the week of Memorial Day in 2025, you're going to finish sometime in, November of 2028, if you consistently play 2 games a day. right? So now if you're like America, and I believe he's playing one game a day, it's going to take him 7 years. So he started a 2019 replay in, let's say, 2020. He's going to finish sometime in 2027. Hey, Sports Time Machine. Good morning, my brother. How's it going? Yeah, I just figured I'd jump on before I jump in the shower for work here today, which I have to do very shortly. But I'm working on my coffee and just talking about my replay planning process. So to recap, for those of you who are just joining, if you wanted to do a full season modern baseball replay of 2,430 games and play one game a day, it will take you 7 years, approximately, give or take a week or two, right? 7 years. Well, now the good news is the math flips around. So if you wanted to, at the extreme other end, in my opinion, and I'm not retired, I have a full-time job, so this is the extreme other end for me, right? If you wanted to do a full season 2025 Strat-O-Matic replay in one calendar year, so let's say I started on Monday. I started on Memorial Day. My plan was to finish on the day before Memorial Day next year, pretty much, and start my next season project on Memorial Day. Like, let's say that was that's how I'm going to structure my baseball replay time going forward. I would have to average 7 games a day for an entire year. It's 49 games a week. Let's round up to 50 games a week, right? 50 games a week of cards and dice. Now, we've talked about this already. That sounds crazy to a lot of people, right? And for a lot of people, it's probably not an achievable thing. But first of all, if you have the focus to stick with one project, that's extremely important, and you have to self-identify about this. I don't. I always have 3 or 4 going on at the same time. So that's number one. I always have 3 or 4 projects. So that's deterrent number one for completing a project in that fashion. Deterrent number 2 is just the time involved. If we're playing 50 games a week and it takes 2 games per hour, that's 25-hour per week commitment. That's a pretty good part-time job, right? Now, maybe you're like, dude, no problem, right? I definitely have an hour in the morning before work. All right, 2 games there. Still got 5 games to play for the day on average. But maybe you're not thinking that way. Maybe you're like, I definitely have an hour after work. Okay, so that's 5 days a week if you work 5 days. We're making some broad assumptions here, but we're trying to hit the average. What works for me is I work 5 full days, and then I work most Saturdays for a half day. I work most Saturdays for 3 hours. So talking specifically about my situation. Got an hour in the morning, 2 games, an hour in the evening, 2 games. So of my 25-hour commitment, Monday through Friday, I'm able to bang out 10 of those hours. That leaves me 15 hours of gameplay on the weekend. Now, I have a very understanding wife and a very supportive wife of this hobby. She is happy that when I'm happy, she's happy that my hobby keeps me home. Sitting right here, usually in the same room as her, just quietly rolling away. That's still 7.5 hours a day on the weekend. Now, you might think, dude, I got double that time on the weekend, so that's half of my Saturday and half of my Sunday. That's not unreasonable. Depending on your lifestyle. On my lifestyle, that works, but it doesn't always work. It works a lot of weeks, but it's not going to work every week, right? Some weeks we're going to have plans. Some weeks it's going to be holidays. Some weeks there's going to be birthdays. Some weeks you're going to be sick. Some weeks you're going to have events come up. So you would have to be very, very dedicated to complete a full season replay in 1 year at 50 hours a week, right? Now you say, oh, I can be more efficient than that. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and be really efficient. Maybe you're an incredible savant at, maybe you're a Keith Russell type savant and you're like, dude, easily double that number of games per hour. I can do 4 games per hour. I have it set up ahead of time. I'm using a helper. I'm ready to go. All I got to do is flip the cards around. Can definitely bang out a game in 12 minutes, takes 3 minutes to set up the next game, 15 minutes, 4 games an hour. So 12.5 hours a week, a lot more manageable. If you are that efficient, you can definitely get it done in a year, right? I could get it done in a year if I was able to focus on a single project. I don't see myself doing that. So time is a huge factor, and understanding how you use your time and what time you have available to you, probably the most important first factor to identify when you're planning out your replays, right? If you find yourself always starting and never finishing stuff, you're probably not examining your time enough, and you're probably not examining what you can really do. So the first thing to figure out is how much time per day, per week, on average, you have to commit to the hobby, and then build your replays from there. And then figure out how much time you want to spend on a replay. If you get bored of a replay after 3 months every time, then plan a replay you can complete in 3 months. Hey, Kevin, currently replaying 2001, your goal is 5 years. And that's perfect, Kev. You're a great example because just like me, you're always playing multiple replays too, right? So you've got this project, and I can get into my projects, but I don't have time to do it now. But you've got this 2001 project, and you're going to try to do 5 years. So, what's that average out to? That's 2,400, and let's say, well, let's just do regular season for shits and giggles, right? 2430 divided by 5 years is 486 games a day. So divided by 365 days is about 1.3 games a day. Very, very achievable, right? Very achievable. Anybody who's super casual into the hobby wants to play, on average, let's say a game a day Monday through Friday and 2 games on the weekend. That's pretty much your pace, right? Realize that Kevin is playing about 12 projects right now. So that 1.3 games a day is on top of the 3 or 4 other games he's probably averaging when you bring in his other projects, right? Tell me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but that's where I'm. Hey, what's up, Chris? How you doing? Sorry, just saw that. Good to see you, man. Coffee Nut Gaming Network. I like it. You've rebranded. Have you done any videos? But I'm right. Okay, so my assumptions about Kevin and his play are correct because I know Kevin pretty well from Facebook, and we share the community replay project together, and he's done a fantastic job with that, by the way. Anyone that plays a full season replay with all the teams is Einstein crazy. It's an insane amount of focus and a lot of sitting. So I've done it 6 times, but I haven't been able to do it recently, like in the last, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. Mostly because my life got better, right? Like I used to be in a marriage that I honestly wasn't happy with, and it was very easy to lose myself in replays, among other things. I also lost myself in video games and streaming on Twitch and all sorts of stuff. But there were intense areas of focus where all I would do is go to work, come home, very honestly, grab a 6-pack or something, and just roll strat game after strat game after strat game after strat game. And I would stay up until I couldn't stand to stay up anymore. I'd go to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd wake up at like 6:30, 7. I'd roll into work tired as a dog. And then I'd come home and rinse and repeat. And I mean, that was pretty much 6 days a week. And then the 7th day, I'd probably hang out with friends or, try to do something. Like we even had a game night at my house for years. But yeah. So during about 9 years, I completed 6 full season Strat-O-Matic replays because it's all I really did. Since I've been in a great marriage and happier and have kind of revised my life and try to be healthier and actually exercise and eat and see friends and do all these things, it's I don't have time. I just don't, and that's a good thing. I have a pretty well-rounded life. So one of the struggles I've had is thinking, oh, I could still do that. I can still bang out a replay in a year and a half if I want to. But the truth is I can't because my focus isn't the same, because I am happier and I have other things I want to spend my time on, because I actually try at work now and it matters to me how successful I am and how much money I make, not because of money, but because I want to take care of my family to a certain extent and all that sort of stuff. So that's a whole nother topic that I want to talk about at some point. But having an accurate understanding of how your time is available and how much time you can healthily dedicate to the hobby, and there's nothing wrong with the word dedicate, by the way, as long as it's in balance, is a really good place to start with planning your replay projects. But anyway, speaking of time management, I have to finish this coffee and get in the shower in about 5 minutes, so I should start wrapping it up. I think just like anything, you can become obsessed with something, and you can have like this OCD sort of thing where anything you choose to spend your time on can replace all of the other things in your life. You know, there are people who watch TV for 10 hours a day. There are people who play video games for 10 plus hours a day. And I'm not judging that. I'm just saying that you should be careful about what you're missing out on. Right. So like there are other things that I want to do with my time. One of them is writing. Writing is a lifelong dream. I've written 3 novels and 6 short story collections. They're published up on Amazon. But I did all that in a year and a half, right? I've written very little since then, and it bothers me. So when I think, hey, like literally this was a thought process, and I'm just going to share myself, and maybe you can apply it to your own situation. If you're like, I could do this, but I don't know why I don't do it. And whether we're talking about replaying baseball games or any other thing in your life, time management is a serious factor, right? There's a phrase called opportunity cost, right? So if I decide to play 2,430 games of the 2025 Strat-O-Matic season over the next year, Memorial Day to Memorial Day, basically, just to prove I could do it, right? 7 games a day on average. Sounds achievable. It is. As discussed, half hour per game, we're looking at about 3.5 hours a day on average. We're looking at 25 hours a week. Part of my brain went, how much could you write? How many novels could you write in a year with that same amount of time? Yeah, I'm going to let the silence sit there for a second, because apply that to anything you want to spend your time on. Any dream you have, anything you want to do personally, or anything you're thinking like, oh man, if I just did this, my life would be better, right? If you're not exercising, half hour to an hour a day. If you know a part-time job would alleviate some financial stress for you and your family, and you're not doing that. Or if you put an extra hour in at work every day, how far would that take your career? Or if you took an hour of your time and donated it, right, and volunteered somewhere, what kind of impact would that make on the lives of others and your life? Right. So what's the opportunity cost of committing that much time to one particular thing? For me, if I just look at writing alone, 25 hours a week. Let's say I write 1,000 words an hour. That's 25,000 words. And that's a pretty established figure for me. I write about 1,000 words an hour when I'm writing fiction. If I took that same 25 hours a week and I wrote fiction, I could write 100,000 words a month. I'm not talking about editing, not talking about any other stuff that goes into building a writing career. But if I just wrote for 25 hours a week, at 100,000 words a month, that's 12 novels a year. 12 full-length first drafts a year, if nothing else, right? Cut it in half for editing time, 6 novels a year. Now, that's also maybe an unsustainable pace for a writer. For me, I'm pretty sure it is, right? But I kind of did it for a year. You know, it was fun for a year. I was all in for a year. I did nothing else. I didn't play Strat. I didn't play video games. I wrote. So if you're like thinking, if you're I'm pretty happy with my life. Thanks, New Play. Appreciate it. Hello from Russia. It's something to think about. I'm not saying to judge yourself or others harshly. What I am saying is to be cognizant of the effect that your choices have on the rest of your life, and to try to find a good balance. I don't need to write 25 hours a week, but if I could find 10 hours a week, in 5 years I might have a career as a novelist, right? Something to think about. If you dedicate an hour a week to work, an hour a week, God, that's probably what most people get in, just walking to and from places. If you dedicate half hour to an hour a day to working out, you're going to live longer, in all likelihood. You're going to feel better. You're going to have more energy for other stuff. So keep things in perspective. Remember that what we're talking about here when we talk about planning replays, this is just a game. And it's a fun game and it's a great hobby, but keep it in perspective. So when you're planning replays, do so responsibly. Really think about the time you have, how you want to spend it, and what you might not be doing that you should, could, or want to be doing with some of that time before you choose a replay project that is going to be way over your head and frustrate you because you can't do anything else. All right, it's been a half hour. It's longer than I intended to go. I'm going to go jump in the shower and head off to work. But I'll see you guys soon with another video. Going to try to get on a few times a week. Maybe get some gameplay in, most likely on the weekends. But yeah, that's about it. So my name is Joe. This is JC Sports Replays. How do you plan your replays? Kev, thanks for hanging out, man. Talk to you soon. Have a good day, guys.